Good afternoon and welcome to Aurora Connects Season 3, Episode 9, Cleavon Smith for Thursday, May 27th. We apologize for the delay in getting this broadcast out. We were experiencing some technical difficulties, but thank you for checking us out. As always, I'm Monique Williams, Aurora's Associate Artistic Director, and I am joined by Artistic Director Josh Costello. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Dawn, good to see you.
Good to see you. So we have subscriptions on sale. Yeah, you want to tell?
We sure do.
Folks?
Yeah, we have a season announced, Aurora's 30th season, starting in September. The first show we are hoping will be in person at our theater on Addison Street. If that is not possible, then it will be streamed on video to your home. But it's a great season. There's 3 world premieres. There's 2 local premieres. They are really great plays that speak to the moment that we're in right now. And you can purchase a subscription by going to auroratheater.org. And while you're there, you can also make a donation by clicking the donate button at the top right or along with your subscription. So thank you so much for that.
Great. And we know we missed you today for comments in the live chat, but do remember you can always email us at connects@auroratheater.org, connects@auroratheater.org. We are planning our 4th season of Aurora Connects to align with our 30th anniversary season for Aurora. So we would love to hear your thoughts on who you want to see, what topics you'd like us to tackle. That 4th season will start when our subscriber season starts, which is in September. Josh, we're going to forego the quote today because we have playwright Cleavon Smith joining us. And I want to encourage people to come to the reading next week and hear the play. So they'll get plenty of quotes when they join us next weekend to hear that play. So if there's no further ado, I think I'll get Cleavon in here.
Yeah, the play is That's What We're Waiting to Find Out. And the playwright is Cleavon Smith. Cleavon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's great to see you. Cleavon is a remarkable local Bay Area playwright. He was, Cleavon, you co-wrote The Flats, Aurora's audio drama last fall. And you are Aurora's Originate and Generate commissioned playwright for this year, for 2020-2021. We commissioned you to write this play. That's what we're waiting to find out that we're going to talk about today. You've also been the resident playwright at Theater First. You've worked at other theaters around the Bay Area, and you are, am I right in saying that you are a professor at Berkeley City College? Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about this play. I've been such a big fan of you and your work, and when we realized we did have, in fact, the funding to do another Originate and Generate commission, which was not certain at the beginning of the season, we were very excited to be able to call you up, and you have written the first draft of this play. Tell us a little bit about it.
It's a play that I felt kind of timely at the time I started it. And it only got more so as we went through last summer after George Floyd. But it's a play about, it's an intergenerational story where you have one individual who has written this book around civil discourse. He's invited to come to UC Berkeley to lead and facilitate some campus dialogue after there was an incident between the Black Student Union and campus police, and assuming that was just going to be a smooth event, and it turns out that there was a walkout from the Black Student Union, and the author and the Vice Chancellor of Student Services, both being African-American Black professionals, were kind of taken aback by this walkout, took it personally. And it had this intergenerational kind of debate around what is the best course of action to respond to the moment.
Mm-hmm. I love how you describe it as intergenerational, in part because what's striking to me about it is that the older generation in this play is sort of Generation X, is my generation, and the younger generation are like the post millennials, and yet there is I'm used to thinking of intergenerational and generational conflict being with baby boomers on one end or older. And yet there is a real divide, right? And as a professor, right, you're around these young folks and are getting a real sense of, I assume, of where they're at on some of these issues.
Yes, and I think also, I think we're at that place in our lives, assuming that we're all around the same age, we're at that place in our lives where the intergenerational, like, it's actually from younger. We're used to pushing back the baby boomers and not being the ones who are being pushed from the younger generation. But yes, and so just kind of observing that and also being with students and seeing younger people being really just amazed by their engagement, just causes me to reflect on my own engagement. So yes, being around the students, seeing, people like Alicia Garza who are leading Black Lives Matter, like these young people are a force right now. And I think a lot of it is bringing to our attention some of the shortcomings of ourselves, of our generation, and as well as some of the wisdom that I guess we hadn't necessarily quite owned that we actually hold.
Cleavon, just 2 days ago, May 25th, marked a day of remembrance of George Floyd, who was brutally murdered by police just 1 year ago. I wonder, it seems to me you started writing the play around the same time. I wonder if those incidents had any influence or any bearing on you writing this play.
Yes, absolutely. It was, I think, the beginning of the story, of writing the story, it was more about the cancel culture, the debate around cancel culture, how productive it was and the like. And unfortunately, one topic that can always be engaged in is I guess, as young folks say these days, is evergreen, is, the violence of Black bodies. And so I had started with the violence against the president of the BSU prior to May 25th of last year. But after that, and after the footage, and after the reckoning that happened, it just became even more urgent. It was a lot more visceral experience each time I sat down to write.
Tell us about this character who's written a book and the play, and he's sort of become a celebrity, and seems like he's probably making the rounds of all the talk shows, and like his book has taken off and has become the sort of the book that everybody's talking about. What is the book about that he's written within the play? What's the thesis of this book that he's written?
The book is the story is we need to step outside, just recognize one another's values. We have so many shared values, and if we recognize that our values don't always separate us, but what it separates us is our ideologies, and this whole practice of reflecting on what our values actually are versus our ideologies as a way of coming together to have productive civil discourse. And I say it cynically now as I'm saying it, but at the same time, I do believe a lot of that. I do believe that much of our shared experiences and our shared values could be a great vehicle or medium for more productive civil discourse. And at the same time, I think one of the challenges that the representatives from BSU have to the character's book is that it is a little bit too idealistic to assume that we can so easily disregard our ideology.
Yeah, and so the students, what would the students answer be? How would they go about it if not by finding shared values and seeking compromise and working together? Like, what's their methodology for addressing injustice in society?
I think their methodology is to say that any methodology that has been used before has proven to be inadequate. And so this idea of civil discourse does not serve those who are being oppressed. In the service of eradicating oppression, like civil discourse is kind of laughable. It's like, because who does it serve? And so their response to Thomas, or to the character, is that no, we're going to be much more forceful in our demands, and not necessarily violent, but at the same time not going into these conversations, these dialogues, not going into them to compromise, but going into them to demand.
Mm-hmm. And there's the information about this reading that we are doing as part of Originate and Generate. This is our commissioning program, and one of the things that we do when we develop a play is get a group of actors together to read it out loud. And sometimes that's just around a table, and sometimes it's up on a stage. And in these days, it is over Zoom. Dawn Monique Williams, you are directing this production. Tell us about this reading that's coming up.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It'll be some actors that I've never worked with before, but have seen their work and long admired. And playing this role of Thomas is Michael Gene Sullivan, who is someone that has a long working relationship with Cleavon. And so that'll be a sort of nice reunion for the two of them, and a great way to test the language. We've never heard the play out loud. I mean, it's fresh off the presses. Cleavon just emailed me like 2 days ago. I'll have another draft for you to send out, before we start on Monday. So it's really exciting. And then we have this actor who I saw in Hieroglyph at SF Playhouse, the digital production, who I was completely unfamiliar with, Anna Marie Sharp, who just graduated from Cal Berkeley. So it was great. I saw her in that production that was directed by Margot Hall, and Margot sang her praises, and I was really intrigued by her work. Reached out to her, learned from her bio that she's literally just graduated like a week ago from the UC Berkeley. And so it felt like there was a lot of synergy there with her being a Cal student and a local actor in the Bay Area. So that's really, really exciting. And then Gabby Moma is an actor who was based in the San Francisco Bay Area for some time, and now they're off in grad school. And that's the beauty of what a Zoom reading lets us do, is it lets us test the language, hear the play out loud with friends who might be at some distance. Because we don't know if this will be the final performance script. You never know. Cleavon might get rid of a character, add a character. And that's what's so thrilling about workshopping a new play. So I'm really excited, and I also feel like, not to really make it too much about production value, but I think Aurora has found some ways to do these developmental readings that makes the best use of the technology, so that there is still some aesthetically pleasing things, and not just Zoom squares. So I'm really excited that we'll get to just workshop this brand new play and see where Cleavon wants to take it in a week from now.
Cleavon, talk to me about this process for you. What are you looking forward to about having this developmental reading, and what do you hope to get out of it?
So as Don was saying, the language, just to hear it, there is a lot that I've been working on and trying to do with the rhythm and the language my characters, and in that thing that we all call finding our voice. And so just listening to how that lands, and also just having the benefit of these other incredible professionals and having their perspectives and see how it feels in their bodies, and what their reactions are to just one more degree of separation between my head and my inner voice, from the characters who you want to go out and show, and push them out into the world, independent of me. So yeah, and also just every night that we're reading pages is a night where we're asking questions, and seeing where some of these questions that are asked, that's like, I love the idea of that question reverberating throughout. And some of them obviously are questions that like, okay, we need to answer that one, and distinguishing the two is something that I'm looking forward to experiencing.
Don, when you're directing a reading like this, how do you spend the time? What do you you have a few hours of rehearsal before the reading, which isn't always true, but it is for this one. How do you spend the time in rehearsal? What do you focus on?
Well, the text. So we read it, and especially on a like a very new play where the writer's in the room. We read it, and then right away I provide an opportunity for, if the playwright already has a sense of like, yeah, I caught this thing and I caught that thing, and I already know I want to, fuss with that. And if there's things that want to happen in the moment, then we'll just go back and tackle that. If it's like, yeah, I'm going to leave it, and tomorrow I might have some new pages. Then I foster an opportunity for dialogue, really, between the cast and the playwright. And in many ways, I'm sort of like a facilitator in that process, so that actors can ask the questions that might tease out ideas, might get the playwright thinking, without being prescriptive, without problem solving the play. But it allows the writer to kind of learn, like, oh, I guess that arc wasn't clear enough for that person, or that maybe that information does need to be restated another point in the play if they weren't holding it from there. And then, we read it again. And usually, with subsequent readings, we just take it very slow, so that we're reading a little bit, talking a little bit, reading a little bit, talking a little bit, always providing that space for conversation, and always providing that space for the playwright to continue to kind of tweak things and offer notes. I mean, when it's a brand new play, I would love for the playwright's vision to be achieved. So I'm not really selfish about the playwright giving notes. And then, because we are offering something to the public, we want something that has some appeal. But because of Zoom, I don't have to worry about staging. We don't have to worry about loose pages and where does my music stand go, and do we stand when we speak or do we sit? We're not really that worried about it. Folks have really figured out how to have that Zoom on half their screen and that script on the other half. So we really can take time to focus on relationships, to really bear down into the language, and hopefully inform Cleavon's process while also whetting the audience's appetite, so that they want to stay on the journey with this play from inception to production a year from now.
I love that. I love that our audience is going to get to see it at this early stage, and then maybe we'll do another workshop at some point in the fall, and then come and see the fully realized production in the spring of 22. That's really cool. Cleavon, what happens after this reading? What are the next steps for you as a playwright? I should say that, Originate and Generate, the whole idea of Originate and Generate, as started by Tom Ross, my predecessor, was to give playwrights a process that fit them, that we don't take a cookie cutter approach. Every Originate and Generate play that we've produced so far and that we've developed so far has had its own. There's Eureka Day. That was the last one to get a full production at Aurora. that came through this program. Some of the playwrights use the funding to do different things. Beth Wilmert had to buy a ukulele for her show, the Olga Cabaret, and Britt Fraser went to New Orleans, did a research trip to New Orleans for Laveau. And this play and Eureka are both more sort of traditional, theater processes, it seems like. But what's the next step in your process as a playwright?
Well, I'm looking forward to the reading mostly, and I plan on just sitting on it for a while, just like to really just bask in the luxury of being able to sit on it. I haven't had the luxury of having this much lead time, and everything has generally been speculative in the past when I had a lot of time. So I'm looking forward to just sitting with it and trying to have some distance between, because there's always the ego. It's like, oh, I didn't do that well. I didn't do this well. And let me go and show myself and others I can do that, rather than think about, okay, what does the play need? What does the play really honestly need? So I plan on taking the rest of the month of June just to sit on the notes. Most likely, I'm just anticipating, sit on the notes, and then come back in July and figure out, okay, which of those notes are still hot? Which of those notes, do I have questions that I can go back to Dawn about and say, okay, well, I wrote this down and it seemed really urgent at the time, but I'm not quite understanding, what was going on, what was not quite working. How much of it was the fact that we were, on the page rather than on the stage, and just really just lean on Dawn's expertise for a lot of those questions. And we talked about this before. I really hope by the beginning of the school year to have a document that I can then start, taking to student groups and talking to the Black Student Union, students at Cal, and also at the Peralta colleges in our area, to solicit, conversations, not necessarily feedback and to workshop it, but to facilitate some conversations that I can use to kind of inform, next steps going forward.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about this project, is that it really has strong potential to tie in with our community partners program. And there's lots of conversations, that this play could inspire. It's a topic that is worthy of a lot of thought and talk, and it's a conversation. I feel like the subject matter of the play, what you've written, this idea of this generational divide and these differing takes on how to move forward with regards to racial justice and conversations about racial justice, is a really rich topic that people have opinions about, and I look forward to finding ways to host those conversations alongside the production of the play itself.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I am so looking forward to that, and I don't think I've shared with you all before, but I'm hoping to also kind of transfer a little bit more into theater for young audiences. Mm-hmm. And I think in general, theater for young audiences does, especially I have a 9-year-old daughter, and we go to a lot of plays at the Bay Area Children's Theater, and we come out of those shows talking, and and she gets my perspective as and I can talk to her, and we have these conversations, and it is like an immediate intergenerational conversation, and so, and I also just kind of building on my experiences at Theater First, and the success of the experience being, the number of conversations that we spark, and how the play lives outside of whatever stage that is being produced on.
That's so great. And we've already been talking to our partners at Berkeley High. We've already got student matinees for this on the calendar. We're already checking with them, like, hey, is the district gonna let students take field trips after COVID? And it sounds like they actually are deeply invested in enrichment activities for students after 2 academic cycles of online learning. So we're really looking forward to how we can use this show as a vehicle for conversation with young people.
And getting
Cleavon,
their input on the script too. I mean, I'd love, I'm hoping that we can have students, Cal students, Laney students, Berkeley High students, come to a rehearsal or come to a reading and like, is this authentic, right? Are these young characters, written by this old guy? Are they speaking authentically like young folks actually speak?
we're not old yet. Cleavon, I know that right now you are outside of the Bay Area, getting to visit family and things for the first time in forever. I wonder if you would tell us a little bit of your origin story, especially related to how you became a playwright.
Yeah, well, I am currently in my childhood bedroom. So I grew up in this house. I'm really super fortunate that my parents are still in the same house I grew up in, on the same land that my mom grew up on and her siblings grew up on. And I think a little bit of my origin story kind of comes from being out in my yard and playing pretend, throwing the ball up to myself and pretending there are 70,000 fans cheering for the plays that were happening on the field. And weaving through dogwood trees as if they were like defenders of the goal. And being out there and just seeing airplanes fly over me, or looking at the stars and really feeling and sensing this, this having this sense of feeling insignificant. Like there are however many hundreds of people on that plane up there who have no idea who I am. And are not even at all interested. And then also just being in a small community where, like everybody is, like you're related to everybody else and your story is tied to your aunt, your uncle, and your grandparents. And just really wanting to find a place where I could, assert my own individuality. And so therefore I went to a military academy, went to the Naval Academy, which, I had to go backwards to go forward. But yeah, I've always loved writing poetry and being from the land of Faulkner. I will use like a Faulkner reference. Like most novelists are people who failed at writing poetry, then failed at writing short stories, and then went to novels. And I took it one more step. I failed at writing novels and went to playwriting. But it was through playwriting is when I finally felt that my stories were taking off. I was getting somewhere in it, and it wasn't like this cerebral process and cerebral document. It was really like characters pushing each other, decisions being forced to be made, and that's when I just got jazzed. I came to the Bay Area and I saw Bernadette Quattrone, who was a classmate of mine from the Naval Academy, performing, and I saw what she was doing, and I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to write for the stage. I wanted to write characters that were involved in stories and experiences that I was seeing on the stage. And that's, kind of where I started putting all my energy towards that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I met Bernadette at Impact Theater, which Josh founded.
Exactly.
The world's smaller and smaller day by day.
Extremely small. Extremely small.
And Cleavon, what do you love about being a playwright? What gets you up in the morning?
Oh, well, what gets me up in the morning is like writing stories in general. And so I can, and I still write fiction. But what I love about being a playwright is, is just the collaborative nature of it. And so many people are involved in seeing the stories bringing the stories to life. I love being in the theater during lighting tech and just like watching that process and listening to the director and the lighting technician make these decisions that are so critical to the story that, you know, like may otherwise not be given much consideration by just the viewer. I love just the presence of, you know, getting notes from the stage manager each day after rehearsal. It is just like so many people are involved in it. And it doesn't feel less like my story. It just feels like it's like my story and so many other folks. It feels like all of our story. And I still have the, what is it? The satisfaction of having felt I put words on the blank page. But I also feel like, you know, I played sports as a kid. I played team sports as a kid. And just that team sport nature of it, you know, like if we, you know, to get across the goal line, it just takes the entire team, and that's why I think I found a home in theater.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a photo of last Sermon of Sister Imani at Theater First, directed by Michael Gene Sullivan. That was a beautiful production.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun being in the room, seeing the decisions that Michael was making, and you know, and just Jasmine and Desi again, kind of going back to that the team bringing it across the goal line. You know, like there would be, because it was such a short lead time, I would come with new pages, and they hadn't even finished blocking the previous scene, and I'm coming with new pages, and they were like, cool, and just like, let's do it. You don't find that kind of spirit in many workspaces, not at all.
Did you see theater as a kid? Did you grow up seeing theater?
I did not. My first professional theater experience was when they bused a bunch of students, you know, freshmen from the Naval Academy to the National Shakespeare Theater. It was at Folger at the time, to see a production of Coriolanus. It's my first, you know, professional theater experience. Yes.
Throwing you in the deep end, huh?
Yeah, they did. But at the same time, it was still, you know, like it's magical, which is another reason why I'm looking forward to the collaborations, the community collaboration for this show. I have ushered at Aurora for 3 seasons, and you know, and mostly because, you know, like it's just such an intimate space. I love that space, and it's the kind of plays I like seeing, and you know, like I would love to usher there again and welcome, you know, a much broader audience into the theater.
We'll sign you up.
Thank you. I'll be there.
I love that they took a busload of Naval Academy kids to see Coriolanus.
Right. They could have done a better job of prepping us for that. For like the context of it. It was pretty, and because it was an appropriate play for us to see. But it was a interesting first choice for a lot of us.
I would have to say so.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think this is such a perfect play for Aurora, I think, because it does that thing that I feel like the best plays at Aurora do, which is it presents a big idea, and has characters who are really dealing with each other on a deeply personal level. You know, there's some love in this play, there's some anger in this play, there's a lot of feelings and really detailed emotional work that's going to have to happen from the actors, but it's all connects to just a really important political, intellectual idea that these characters are all struggling with in different ways. And I feel like that's like the secret sauce at Aurora, is like these plays that you know, you get the intense emotion and the detailed nuance and the language, and the big idea, and I love that, and I love that it's a play that does that and speaks to a topic that is right now, and that's in our community and in our nation, and it's something really, really important. I think that's just a great formula, and not a formula, it's a great play. And I know you didn't write it to a formula, but it all the pieces sort of came together so nicely, and I'm really just could not be more excited about sharing this play with our audience that we've had for a long time, and with the audience that we're going to be welcoming into our space for the first time.
Absolutely. Cleavon, are you one of those writers who's got your hands in many scripts at once? What are your other projects you're cooking up?
I am one of those writers who has their hands in a lot of different projects at the same time, but it takes like I don't commit very well. I don't commit very well. And so, but like I do have a comedy that I'm working on, just to kind of like wash, to cleanse the palate from this particular story. And the other thing I'm working on right now is getting more like music, not necessarily musicals, but like more musicality. I love music. I'm always singing something at some point, and it's just how I kind of like tell time. I get out, I get in the shower and I sing a couple of songs. One's my long shower song and one's my short shower song, just to kind of like keep me in and out.
I love knowing this about you.
So yeah, I have a couple of different projects that I'm working on, and both are pushing me in directions that I feel that I need to go in right now. I don't want to make a bed for myself that I'm not going to feel comfortable sleeping in. And I also consider myself, still very much in my apprenticeship. So I want to expand and try different things that I haven't quite done before.
Well, and it was about a year ago that we started work on the flats. I want to know what's next for those characters. Is there a flats part 2 on the horizon?
Funny you should say that. Brooke stayed with me for a long time in that experience, and I did start his backstory. I did start, the story of Brooke before he came to Berkeley. Just kind of an experience of him going to a wedding in Grass Valley, and the one from whom he's estranged, kind of like being this apparition that is attending the wedding there with him. So before Brooke, the moment when Brooke is really getting into his head, where he finds himself getting to Berkeley. Yeah.
Oh my God,
stuck with me big time.
I love that show. I really, it was really fun to do an audio drama and to have that process with 3 playwrights somehow mashing their brains together and coming up with the story.
Yeah, I mean, in so many ways, I kind of think that we should have documented all those weekly meetings. Those weekly meetings were that I so look forward to that. Yeah, what do we do that for like 5-6 months every week,
all summer.
Yeah, it was
all
also
summer.
Yeah.
That was a cool generative process, as we were still kind of learning what was happening in the world and how to move forward as storytellers and theater makers, and what technology was available to us, and how prophetic it all sort of seems now too. I mean, looking back.
Yeah.
Now they're talking about real discoveries of UFOs, right? That was like in the news last week.
Oh, they're all definitely real. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't know what it is, it's definitely a UFO. we should mention that this reading that's coming up on June 5th at 5 p.m. is free and open to the public. It is a benefit reading. So even though you do not have to pay for a ticket, we are soliciting donations along with this reading. And any money that comes in from donations for this reading goes right into increasing the production budget for our production. And so that could mean that depending on how much money ends up coming in, it could mean that we have more time with a dramaturg to work on the play or to work with the actors. It could mean we have more money to build an even nicer set. It could even mean that we have an extra week of rehearsal. There's lots of possibilities, and I'm really excited that that we're doing this benefit as a fundraiser for this project. We are gonna, even if no money comes in, we would still do this project upright, but having something extra to be able to give it that extra care and attention that it needs for a new play is, I just feel really fortunate, and I'm sure that our supporters are going to support this as well. Yeah, and to foster these partnerships that you and Cleavon both spoke to would be really great to be able to get those young people in the theater, and and donors make that possible. So. Absolutely, that would be, that's so important. Just having younger folks in the theater and having and sharing that experience, and just we like when the space is vibrant. I feel the actors definitely get like we are all like vibing off of each other in that way, and we say that our theater is a space. What does Bill say at the SF Playhouse? The empty gym. Empty gym, yes, yeah. And so and the equipment is one another, and so like we can't just do biceps the entire the entire workout. And so just having just varied experiences and perspectives in the room at the time, I think only makes the experience that much more rich. Absolutely. Well, Cleavon, thank you so much for writing this play. Thank you so much for being our commissioned artist for this year and next, and thank you for coming on Connects today. Oh, it was fun. Let's do it again. We will. We definitely will. Cool. So I mentioned the reading. Please do check that out on June 5th at 5 p.m. We are also, as we mentioned at the beginning, we have announced our 30th season, and it's great. You can find out all about it by going to auroratheater.org. And while you're there, you can click the little button at the top right and make a donation to help us get through this process of figuring out how we are going to reopen after this long interruption. There's the plays. They're just so great. I could not be more excited about this lineup of plays that we get to share with you all. Oh, and we like to give a shout out to another organization at the end of our episodes of Connect. And today we are lifting up Compassion in Oakland. Compassion in Oakland aims to empower the AAPI community of Oakland with resources that promote safety, unity, and education awareness. We aim to foster safety by providing chaperone services to targeted communities who feel unsafe. We strive to provide opportunities for cultural awareness, education, and mentorship within the community. They are at compassioninoakland.org. And I want to thank Jeffrey Lowe and TheaterWorks for bringing this organization to our attention. They are doing a benefit reading for Compassion in Oakland called Writing Fragments Home by Jeffrey Lowe. And that is happening the same night as our reading of Waiting to Find Out. It's a little bit later in the evening, but it's also going to be, that one's going to be available to watch afterwards as well. So we encourage you to check out TheaterWorks and check out Compassion in Oakland. Great. Well, that's another great conversation. And we return to you in 2 weeks with our episode titled Where the Money Reside. And we will talk about how theaters build budgets, what a theater budget looks like, how that sort of pie graph gets divided. So where does the money go? Where does it come from?
So we'll be joined with some.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just wanted, everybody's been talking about how a budget is a document of your values, right? And so that's what we want to talk about is how do theaters' budgets reflect their values?
So we'll be doing that in 2 weeks at 5 p.m. And again, please feel free to always reach out to us at connects@auroratheater.org. That's connects@auroratheater.org. And we showed you the season again. There's still more news to come, and you can already get a subscription by visiting us at auroratheater.org.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks, Dawn.
Thank you, Josh, and everyone. Thanks for watching, and thanks for staying connected.